got my feelings and I've got cum. The kind of sense you give off when you're up for fun. I fill you up with courage, I feed him my love. Ain't talking that shit, this scene is a rub. People walking, tell her people don't care. And cause your shit on my way.
You got all these hoes. You think you might propose. You've got no time for your bros. Filling with error code. You think we'll all be fine, but you don't really believe it. You've really crossed the line. Now we really need to tell you. You know Joey will cry if you cross this for day night. That ain't right. You're fucking over your bros. We have to tell you so. You're tripping over these hoes. You need to let them go. We don't tell you what to do with yourself. We've lost your self-control. Aware all the broken promises not kept. I suppose they can't be us. Project Code. That's alright, babe. Fuck it.
Yeah, that tune's called Code Break Bro. I wrote Code Break Bro, it was like the second song I wrote for New Anarchy, technically, but really, truly, the first thing I wrote was Scruffy Muffy, which was just a freestyle. What happened is, it was in the middle of COVID, and I was playing it very safe. So I stopped going everywhere. I wasn't hanging out. I was just kind of shut in the whole time. I went to the grocery store like once a week and stocked up, and I was very careful about that too. I'd like only touch things I was buying, so I would go and be by the shelf, and then I would choose what I wanted and touch only that. I was very careful. And so yeah, but what happened is we were all bored and shit, but I was, I'm a soldier, so I'm able to do that solitude thing while maintaining sanity. But what happened, a real broham of mine, I met, we were friends on Facebook for a minute because he ran into me at like a show when I was in a covers band. And he'd been following me since then. But what happened is he was like one of those guys that really was like, after a certain point, there was a lot of these people who were like, you know what, fuck this. I need to, like, people are stopping life. I need to live or do something. So that was, the wave of people who were kind of like, going out and partying on bourbon and shit. And everything was still locked down, and it was so crazy that, there wasn't a lot of law enforcement going on. But what happened is, he was like, having a whole moment, as a lot of us were, during that time. It was like very psychological and shit. There was a lot of depression and shit going on during that time. So he was like, doing his thing, and he was like hyperactive, actually. So he was, so I went out with him at times because he kind of needed some, I don't want to say rescuing, but you know what I mean about, the vibe I'm on with that. So I would go out, and be like extra careful, but, still in my thing. So that was during the time, man, you'd be out there and all that would be out there was a bunch of, college kids and, people who just had it and were just kind of living their life at 100, while there was an entire pandemic keeping everybody, terrified and shit. So, the vibe with those people, I'm telling you, the way they were, because, like, common people were, looking at those people as, like, very fucking stupid and stuff like that. But while you're out there, and this was only, like, a few times in the middle of this whole break I was on, but anyway, so when you're out there with them, you kind of get the vibe they're on, and it's not really that they're stupid, they're just really, like, they were really just, needing life, man. And how high on it they were, just needing to do that. Man, those are the people that was kicking, high immune systems and shit, because those fuckers weren't getting that shit. I mean, there were some, but you know what I mean, like, out there. So it was like a vibe where you just, like, pop out a blunt, on a balcony in Bourbon in the middle of the fucking day with all these fucking frat boys and shit. You're just chilling, and the cops ain't doing shit, and we're just out there. And so I spent like a fucking, like almost like 24-hour periods just kind of hanging out with that dude and making sure he was cool and everything. Because he wasn't even living in the city at the time, but he was traveling. So we would freestyle a lot together and shit like that. And we were just hanging out, walking around a lot of shit. We never drove, actually. We were just walking miles and miles for like long fucking periods of time. So I started feeling real gangster again, you know, because I mean I was just being myself and we were just chill as fuck, you know. And he's like one of those hard ass white boys, but he's like, you know, he's swole as fuck, but he's like, you know, kind of from the South country kind of, but you know he's got his wits about him and shit. You know, a hands guy, he like, you know, mechanic and shit like that. So I mean it was like one of those things. And bruh, I'm telling you, when I did Scruffy Muffy, you know, we were freestyling and shit. And I was like, you know what, this feels like that energy I was on, it felt like a real thing, you know, real artistic thing. And I felt like something was happening because this was after For the Real Kids was finished for a couple of months or something. And I've always written albums, so when that energy hit me, I knew it was an album happening. So technically, Scruffy Muffy was the first thing I wrote, but that wasn't an album, that was an energy that was going to fuel an album, and I knew that. Which is why it's track 0 in the film now that the album became. You know, because it's in there, but it's kind of like an introduction and tied to the first actual track. Because I actually wrote New World. Because, I mean, I know how to write an album, you know. You know, we all know how to do that, all us musicians and artists who've been doing it for a while. So, New World is when I sat down and was like, okay, I want to take this vibe and everything, and I want to make it into an album, something that's like, you know, well thought out and has a concept, you know, a pure heart about it, and it's just, you know, has direction. So then I kind of took that energy and vibe from Scruffy Muffy and refined it, you know, in a very open, wild way. And that's how we got New World. And then Code Break Bro came right after that. You know, I was already in that line of writing an album from New World, from that energy from Scruffy Muffy. And so those two songs are quite related, where I was kind of coming out very aggressive. You know, it was kind of hip-hop, you know, meets punk, and it was very raw. So I really dug that. And it was kind of raw with what I'm talking about in those songs. You know, it's really just about being out in the street, you know, at the club, you know, on the scene, you know, with your homeboys or whatever, and just, you know, being raw about it, you know, being raw and pure about it, you know. And even when I was out in Bourbon and hanging out around the city during those few days or whatever that was, a little binge-a-thon, I knew I wasn't going to get sick, because what I was doing was like, it was from the heart. And I felt that, you know, and it was real. And so I was looking out for my dude. And so we were like on that. And so all the people we ran into, actually, because all that was like a bunch of fucking street kids and shit. And those guys, they were all heart at that moment, because we were in the middle of a fucking pandemic, and, you know, people were out because they had to be out. They needed to be that. And so it was very pure, their actions were. So like on the news, when they're like, you know, showing all the pictures and videos, and it's looking real fucking stupid, you know, they weren't actually out there. You have to actually be out there at the time to realize what was really going on, you know, which is why it never really got, you know, fully shut down and shit. So yeah, we would hang out and then come back to my house and do all kind of shit. And so all that, you know, because for years now, all the music I've written has been 100% honesty. So if it sounds wild and it's in the song, it's from actual literal life. So yeah, we had a lot of fucking fun. But yeah, a lot of healing and a lot of good shit came out of that, which is why the album's so good, you know, with heart and just seriousness. Like, I know there's a line in fucking New World where I'm talking about in the second verse where it's like I'm on some shit about you know, give them 6 feet when you walk the street. I'll hold your hand if you need a friend. You take the lead, I'll smoke your weed and make sure you're surviving. That's like an actual, you know, part from, you know, what we were doing. You know, it was like everybody was talking about social distancing, and, you know, people were screaming out from their hearts needing shit. And so I was like, you know what, fuck that. You know, if there's someone needs to be touched, someone needs to be touched. You know, fuck a fear thing. You know, their heart needs that shit. You got to do that shit. And you just got to have faith that you're going to be all right, because, I mean, you're doing it from a right place. And when you're that strong on it, man, I'm telling you, immune system and everything, all kind of miraculous shit come in. And, I mean, none of us got fucking sick. And my circle didn't get sick either. And like I said, it was just a short binge-a-thon, because I was very safe the whole time. But yeah, man. Yeah, I feel like I can just chill with y'all tonight, so I'm not worried about how long I'm talking. But that's basically the gist, you know, where Code Break Bro came from. You know, that whole broham thing. And just real in your face, which is why it's so punky. It's actually one of my favorite songs from the new shit. If not my favorite. I guess you can tell, too, if you look through playlists and shit. I've probably played snippets of that, like, more than any other song. I love that chorus and everything. It's just so fucking raw and beautiful. Actually, a little backstory. Man, the fucking, Billy Idol did it was actually Generation X, did a cover of, Gimme Some Truth. You know, you may know it from John Lennon. But, yeah, he did that. And I remember I got on it hardcore because Billy Joe Armstrong was recording solo shit, because he was stuck in his house during the whole pandemic thing. And so he was using his new home studio that he'd been working on. And so since he wasn't with Green Day and shit and couldn't go out, he utilized all his time, working with the studio. So he did a whole, what was it, something Mondays he did. And then he released that on a record later during the pandemic. And so he did a cover of that, and then I went back to the OG, Generation X thing. And the way that Billy Idol was singing, just give me some truth. Yeah, oh no, all I want is the truth. Yeah, just give me some truth. When he was doing that in his full voice, and the way he was doing that, it sounded so pure to me, And I was on this, and it was during the time I was hanging out with my homie, and it just felt so pure when he was singing that, and he really wanted that, And it was like, and it was so, it was gritty, it was punk, because I was listening to a lot of Sex Pistols at the time. Again, because I was hard on the Sex Pistols back in the day, bro. Like, when I was first got into punk, I used to watch a bunch of documentaries and shit, how we do in when you first learn it, get into punk and shit in your teens. And I was hard into that shit. And, man, I got back heavy into Sex Pistols because they were, like, so fucking honest, man. They, like, I can go into a whole thing about that, about Sex Pistols and why they're so fucking, why they're so important, to everything, that purity about them. And yeah, so that vibe from the Sex Pistols and then that pureness that I was able to get from listening to Generation X, and what I was on with my homeboy is kind of exactly where Code Break Bro came from. And it used to be an angry song, I think. Really it was. I used to be angry when I was performing it. Then I was even more angry when I finally was able to get with Brad. You remember Brad from the previous the Mr. releases. He was recording and producing a lot of shit, as well as playing drums. I was able to finally get in with him to let him hear the shit I played, as I've been playing for y'all on YouTube. I played all that shit. He was the first one to hear a lot of the songs in full. I performed the whole song. It's just me and my guitar, bleeding in his fucking his fucking home studio, and literally bleeding. And it was great, And so he heard all that raw shit. And bruh, that was like, just that energy. I mean, we were ready to go with that, and I was kind of pissed off though because I couldn't get the rest of the band to come in at the time. They were giving me shit, and I knew the shit was so fucking good. It was so pure, and I was like, this shit right here is real as fuck, and it needs to get out. We need to immediately jump on this. And they never, not at all at once. They never came in to do that. But it was cool because it eventually evolved into like the whole thing. 'Cause, now it's a whole film. And I just kind of dove into my mode. I got so much more real and pure and just younger, how I've always been back in the day, during this whole process. And so I've been able to connect with, my vibe and my people, which people think I'm 19 or 20 when I'm out in public. And so, like, a lot of my friends are around that, like, in that whole zone. And it's funny because I feel like I never left university. So it's like things kind of worked out to kind of, have a whole transition into that life force, so we can be ready to do this whole thing, like, for real, like, legitimately, so everybody can get that shit. So I'm really on my bullshit now, y'all. But I mean, it's like, now, like, Code Break Bro, as I was saying, it's not really an angry song to me anymore. It's more of a, observations and truth, which gets me to, what I wanted to say. About, like, I don't even feel like, because, a lot of people say shit like, people look at what I'm doing, like, you may look at what I'm doing and consider me to be a gay man or something like that. But, there was a time, very long fucking time, even recently, where I identify it that way, but I really hate all that shit, because I don't feel like that anymore. I feel like I'm just doing what comes natural to me, and I don't really see that, because, when you say gay or straight or something, you start saying that, you make it seem like it's not natural to be a certain way, and that's bullshit, because now we're, like, getting bored and wasting time. You're getting in the way of life and chilling and being in a moment where you're trying to analyze what the fuck's going on. I mean, if you're a certain way, you like certain shit, there it is, and I'm not knocking people who have, like, all that shit. I just think that, I just know that it slows you down, really. And a lot of times, because there was a time when I needed, all that shit, like, I came out like that. And, I was all into Pride and everything, like, hardcore. Like, I was in that shit. We had the whole support boat and everything. But I learned after years, as we all do, all the old queens and everything, we all learned that after a while, it even becomes, heavy on you, you know. It's like people have expectations. It becomes a whole shit show, just like it was before you came out with, you know, in with straight people. So I mean, after a while, all those safe zones and comfort zones and shit, they all, you know, turn into, you know, negative things at some point. So I'm just like, bruh, just be who you are, man, and don't worry about all that shit. Like, I just do what comes natural to me, and I don't deviate from that, because if I'm not doing that, then I'm not being real. So, and if you're not being real, you're not really, you know, adding anything. You're not, you know, you're not even in, you know, with the crowd. You're not contributing anything. But yeah, bro, that's all I really wanted to say. Fuck, I'm ready to play these songs, so I'm happy about that. And I guess I'll go ahead and tell you guys, because I've been talking to a lot of my homies about shit like this, because they've been asking me. So the band, you know, because we were working on the film and we're getting ready to like go into that full speed, I've been pushing the fuck out of it. Yeah. But shit, we're about to roll, babe. I swear. But swear to me. But we're gonna you know, because we've been used to playing for film and shit like that, which doesn't, you know, have us playing live shows, but all of us, myself highly included, love to play, you know, fucking rockin' ass shows. So I was telling my boys, I'm like, bro, we're probably just gonna do some all the rehearsing that we do with the mister. We're probably also gonna do some fucking field trip rehearsals, you know, aka it est shows, you know, and then, you know, just to get it under our fingers and shit, and to get the energy, the vibe rolling outside the bedroom and shit. Because For the Real Kids was 100% bedroom energy, which ain't bad, but you know, it's a whole film, you know, we got to be out there and we got to have some fucking rock and roll fun. As I have still yet to get as wild as I get playing live shows, and I've got a monkey to scratch, so so do you. So yeah, we got to do that, but yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and yeet up on out of here so we can get to it, babe, because, you know, I know y'all probably like to watch me for 30 minutes, but yeah, I'm not gonna have y'all do that tonight. Probably already have, though. But anyway, peace, all that shit, as I say.
Standing each other's damage. The virus and greed argue, you know what I mean? Either distract, take, or reading